Now it is my pleasure to introduce three fine young performance poets from Eugene to entertain you. And first up is going to be Andrew Gonzalez. Andrew hates writing bios because they appear so prosaic, platonic, and as far as introductions are concerned, are virtually faceless. He is a student, lives in Oregon, likes to read, go on adventures, and be whatever he wants to be at any given moment. But if you really want to know something about him, you can listen to his poetry or hang out with him while he improvises his moment-to-moment existence with you in front of you. Please welcome Andrew Gonzalez.
How's everybody doing? Are you guys enjoying this cool poetry and music fest thing? Well, like Steven said, you're probably going to learn something about me, but it won't be anything normal because it's poetry, so it better not be anything normal about me. So I have a confession to make. I've been doing a lot of partying and sitting around and adventuring and reading a lot of books. And really what I'm just trying to do is I'm just trying to figure myself out. And this is kind of what I got so far. So it's called the Solipsism of God. Allow me to introduce myself. So I'm God. Although I don't prefer the title, I'd rather say, look, there's God, and there, and see, there's God everywhere. Meaning, there is all of my existence in eternal infinity funneled through that object, connected to everything. But I'm fucking weird, man. I'm the kind of guy who would create a problem and send myself to die on a cross to fix it, but I'm not that guy, he's not that impressive. I'm an oming, and I've spent existence trying to be somebody else, so I projected into the sky, then collected myself together to find a body to die in. Spreading poetry like my cum. Haiku I find inside my sex drive. I am Brahmin and an animal beyond good and evil, ugly and beautiful, and definitions from the lower realm. I go by he, or she, or it, or me, or my, or us, are we, they, them, or you, and sometimes I hide my face from myself and wait for a text back. While the textbook of my creation lies in front of me, I deify whatever I care about. And what I care about deifies me. And when the pain comes, I say, ouch. And then I deify it too. And then repent and project back into the sky and kill myself again to see my corpus crucified, and I come back to life. A phoenix in the sky, burning and rebirthing in the ether of my being, sighing by and by while waiting for the next planet to create inside myself, of people to live and die and love inside my nothingness, to fill me up until I give birth to ultimate meaning, something to live for. My life to give and take and hide from myself, to have someone to give back to and call them someone else. When there is no light or life or being beside me, I am the one and the gods, but they don't define me as much as I define them. I am free will and determinism joined in fusion, saying, I am that I am, and I will be what I will be. Borderless infinity fit into this luxurious body to indwell with you theophanies on holy grounds, the patios of our nexus, the vortex of one origin, breeding life from death and something from nothing, popping cherries in myself like virgins, giving birth by masturbating. I'm Mary, giving birth to Christ, the harlot with a good story, raped by a Roman soldier. Sinners and saints are just many ways to touch myself. Increasing stories I can tell to fall asleep and awaken in a brand new reality where a goddess was proclaiming my death to society. Listening in vigor and horror at what they heard, that they had killed him. The dictator with the testicles in the sky, I heard is called Jehovah, but he is not I. I know of him, but I'm that other guy. He's a pupil that went wrong in the halls of synagogues and Roman cathedrals, but he escaped corruption, finding repose in me. Call it manifest destiny or heresy, his ironic evolution that he should die and resurrect into creative nihilism, filling modernity's broke philosophic cup. All I have is time and space to play Zeus, so I worship to brown-nose myself and turn every evil into good for me. That is my theodicy. The Euthyphro dilemma really got me bad. I turned to other gods and I said, really, are things good because I say? Or do I say because they're good? And they, solipsistic representations of myself, replied, it is what it is. And you create what you create, and breath is distasteful if you don't feel it. So you smoke and choke and learn to breathe in deeply what you're doing to yourself. But you can remember what you're here to do, to pass through every hoop in this gymnasium, to see how many ways you can feel what you've made real. So I can speak to myself as a me, or I can speak to myself as a you. I mean, where do you think this came from but us? Deity within or without the mysteries of quantum physics. We'll answer when we know whether we found ourselves or not while we're speaking to ourselves in different tongues and dialects. It makes no difference how I split into words. I can make those words up and confess their impotence. An ego with sweaty hands exposing himself to egos that don't exist, but roles I play to progress this plot twist, most change in which is invisible. As the cosmos happens to myself inside of me, invisible. As I negotiate the bifurcations between sacred and profane when I am above them both. To me, enlightenment is just another state of mind. Like falling in love and suicidal thoughts. It's a place I can go to soothe my ghostliness. Standing above everything I say and do, proclaiming the gospel of my undefilable divinity. That may exist, or not, but it satisfies me. Whatever it is, it's getting towards there. A Kierkegaard to suit Nietzsche's mad mind, though they never got to meet. Their bodies laugh as they disintegrate. Absorbing and recycling and reincarnating to greet the ground of being, which turns out to be me. Like a trip of psychedelic insight, I journey on millennia, looking up, seeing my face in the clouds. When I glance for answers, there I am. And you can call that empty if you want. But it depends on how I choose to see my face. Each epistemological uncertainty, a personal insecurity, I paint and then erase that I could ever know anything. I am so small inside myself. Doubting like a goddess, renouncing her authority on trial as we ask of her an answer that she can't provide, that the decision to create was a temptation unabidable. Saying if we could see the big picture, we would probably be happy. About something arbitrary, but happy nevertheless. Beyond subjectivity, objectivity, relativity, irrelevant to me, for I am a God that divines my own creativity. That is my religion. I write scriptures, and I read them. and I frolic by and by. I rush to spell the allure of my biggest self. And I call that the God beyond God, writing a story about himself. The brainstem, doing this shit, acting like an idiot for fun, appalled at my natural refinement for loving as soon as I give myself permission, and calling reason a paradox within a paradox, and letting that be my reason. Thank you. So I just have some stuff memorized because I want to look at all your beautiful faces, so that's really the reason. I might read something, I don't know, new off of my phone if I still have time left over. Steve will keep track of before I mention. So this poem is called Darwin, Remove These Chains. It was originally entitled After Reading Twilight of the Idols by Fried Nietzsche. But that's not a very creative title. But that is the circumstance or the context in which I wrote it. I was reading Fried Nietzsche, I read Twilight of the Idols, and I wrote this poem wrestling with some of the philosophical issues that he introduces in that book. Darwin, Remove These Chains. Instinct, like a bowel movement, must be let out. Must pin the superego to get her done. This struggle brings the animal out of us. Soldiers die, casualties to Darwin's maker. There is a time for war, said the preacher. Not a time of war, a time for war. A time to purge ourselves with struggle, to find again our resilience, that we are animals, deified by opposable thumbs. And Greeks, obsessed with the power-filled phallus, come to a time of testing, bursting forth life gods, the guardians of nations, the ones who make room for poets to see vulvas in roses and rock formations. Mother Nature, a cruel nun, striking hands with rulers, giving tests first, and then lessons. Color struggle looking over brown picket fences. The dictatorship of the proletariat. Come long last, power changes hefty hands. A slut for all who prove themselves worthy. Empires, miscarried, fall pitiful into dirty toilets, and nations, like yogurt, seem to have an expiration date. Sinners lay down their swords for saints to take them up and slay them there. The stories of it all boil up to power. And this struggle seems to be our salvation, for when we need strength, then we become strong, and wrong and right seem secondary. Power is the engine that drives people, like brute beasts gridlocked on tax reform, antlers locked battling for Mona Lisa, for Monica Lewinsky, driven by desire for how it must feel to be on top. Like animals deified by architecture, forks and spoons and guns, rationality, language, opposable thumbs, and I bet you've never thought of how much religion deifies us. Our belief in God makes us gods as we suck the yellow blood from beneath native feet and delicately wipe our lips. As we patrol oily Middle Eastern blood, Abu Ghraib blurs lines of distinction of who the terrorists are. As we see the animal in Hiroshima and grimace and worship before what we are capable of, instinctual self is who we minimize. Preferring to be philosophers and poets, scientists and presidents, but it is pure instinctual self which keeps us alive, draws air without our notice, and makes room for prophets to see God in everything. We thinkers are indebted to the beast inside us, the beast inside others, the animals we call our mothers and fathers, driven to fuck. To fuck like bears fuck and apes fuck and tigers fuck, who would have been just friends if not driven from within to fucking make us happen, bursting forth life gods who struggle every day of their life to find what star they came from. Making messy bowel movements so much relief it is pleasure to let instinct save our necks and wipe afterwards as if we had something to do with it. And we read in the law of Moses that God is a man of war, and also that we are made in God's image. Like when fighting we reach the zenith of godhood, when my romantic self thinks just the opposite, begging for swords to be beaten into plowshares. Thank you. Next one's short, 2 or 3 minutes.
All right, one more.
All right. How's everybody doing out there? So this poem, I just wrote it yesterday. I was walking down the street, writing on my phone, which happens pretty often. This is called On Worshipping the Gods. I worship death as I worship life. And I worship beginnings as I worship endings. And I worship peace as I worship strife. These are wedded together, ever tethered, so I dare not acknowledge one without acknowledging the other. Brothers from the same womb of contrast that makes the siblings different, though they are brothers. That incestuous, sometimes they become lovers and find the contrast complementary, as it always was, even before they loved each other. They came created at once, the one not existing without difference. Persistent, these shall never be the same. So we must learn to worship many gods. The God of breath and the God of choking. The God of ignorance and the God of knowing. The God that's hiding and the God that's showing. And we're teeter-tottering in our bowing and rocking back and forth in the glowing and in the darkening, and though things seem at times to be standing still, and maybe everything is standing still, but to us, leaves floating in the Ganges, the only God unrivaled is the God of flowing. And though we may or may not be progressing, we profess that we are growing. Others may see us day by day and think we're the same, but we are changing. And growing is only changing that we call growing. So we'll grow into living, and we'll grow into dying, and we'll grow into being whatever the dead are. For if we learn to worship death as we worship life, we shall dare don the crucifix ahead of time, and praise the fixedness and the deconstructing and the reconstructing, hailing the idol and the idol broken, and the idol put back together but differently, and glory in all the ways we can make things, but also in how we can break things. And in the absence of breaking and of making, worship that too. Worship absence. Worship distance. And if it hurts, worship pain. And if it excites, worship pleasure, and thereby transform all pleasure into pain and all pain into pleasure. And if you don't want to feel, you don't have to. But you can also feel as much as you want to. You can love numbness, and you can love stimuli. And you can find the gods in others as you can find the gods in the eye. So by worshiping fear, I find I stop fearing. And though I would not want to find the gods in certain places, I know they are there. Ripples that I'm floating on. Because at times I feel they're heaving. And that is what causes my rocking and my bowing. And I've been floating long enough to know the rocking and the bowing are part of the flowing. Thank you.
you so much, Andrew.